And isn't it interesting? I love how he tapped into that experience.
Tappity tap
The
tap.
tappity, yeah, as he did, pun intended, tappity tapped. He tappity tapped into that experience.
Welcome to another episode of the Table of Content. We are so glad you are here so we can continue our discussion about all things We Are One Body Audio Theater. I am one of your hosts, Albert Saenz, and once again, as always, joined by the magnificent, the mighty Michael Steele. How are you, Michael Steele?
Well, after that intro, I'm great. Like my head's so big now, you won't be able to fit me out the door.
We'll have to deflate you just a little bit.
Exactly. Right. But I'm doing great. Enjoying summer. Yes, it's wonderful.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, summer is the reason that we are discussing this next story because summer is creeping along. It's going to be ending before we know it.
Right.
And we have a story written by one of our volunteers, the faithful Joe Potts, who wrote this story a few years ago entitled That Perfect Summer. So it was written by Joe Potts and read by Joe Potts. If you have not listened, if you had missed this one, go to our YouTube channel and look up That Perfect Summer. Listen to the story. It's not very long. And then come on back for the discussion. So, Michael Steele, we've got a summer story, but not just any summer story. What's the synopsis here before we open it up?
Well, so we have a little boy named Billy whose first experience of the perfect summer is the sound that the screen door makes when he, on that very first day of summer, with no expectation of having to get up and go to school, no school work, no homework, no classes, just in the words of Joe Potts, summer was in, school was out, and endless idyllic days stretched before him, right? And so he's just enjoying summer. And that whole experience of summer, the perfect summer, is encapsulated in the sound the screen door makes, right? Which is like a thump, tappity tap tap, right? As you can imagine, like a screen door bouncing,
Yeah.
And just what a great description of like summer, because we've all had that experience, right? Of just first day of summer, right? Just euphoric, right? And then the story goes on, and it's fast paced, and in broad brushstrokes, Joe Potts basically paints Billy's life in like 2.5 pages. It's amazing. Again, we can save that for later,
Right.
but it goes on and how this summer was perfect in every way, and then he goes, the next summer isn't quite as perfect. It's not measuring up. Later on, life happens. There's more mature, and then ultimately ends with his final summer, if you will, or his final passing from this life. So this whole arc of Billy's life, but from the viewpoint of that perfect summer. So
Right.
in broad sort of ideas, that's where the story goes.
I enjoyed listening to it the first time because I hadn't read the story. I was just listening. And I'm listening to Joe talk, and he makes that first sound, that thump, tap-a-da, tap, tap. And in my head, I just sort of dismissed it as, oh, well, Joe just wrote in to make his screen door sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know that the story was wrapped up in that sound.
Right.
And as I listened to the rest of the story, I came to realize how important that one little detail was, and it wasn't what I had thought it out was. And it's probably just, kudos to Joe's writing abilities,
Sure.
to sort of draw the person in, like, okay, screen door sound. Yeah. And then to realize for the character that one component of summer would be such a crucial sort of facet of his life.
Yeah.
And as you go through the story and you go through his development, and you have really, I think, the story of most of us, right?
Yeah.
Summers are idyllic. Summers are one thing in our heads, but as we get older, summers change. They're not quite the same. Friends change, locations change,
Right.
experiences change, but we have those memories, and they stay in there. And then we continue to grow, and we continue to get older, and life continues to change, and other experiences continue to take over, and they get pushed further and further back, but they're still there, and we're
Yeah.
still waiting. And then that one thing happens at some point in our life. It doesn't have to be the end of our life, just
Sure.
something happens way down the road, and suddenly, right,
Mm-hmm.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Those things that are just waiting to be recalled to the front of our head.
Right. And isn't it interesting? I love how he tapped into that experience.
Tappity tap
The
tap.
tappity, yeah, as he did, pun intended, tappity tapped, he tappity tapped into that experience. But how a lot of our memories, especially from our early childhood, are associated with some sense experience, a smell or a hearing or a touch, right? But yeah, we hear a sound or we hear a song, and it recalls a whole flood of memories, or we smell a flower or like some perfume, and it brings back whatever memories of grandma, and in this particular case, it's the thump tappity tap encapsulates his whole experience of that one perfect summer. Yeah, it's really cool.
Right, right. But you go through it, and you realize that Billy, who then becomes Will as he gets older,
Right. Yeah.
is sort of always wanting the perfection. Like, he sort of moved on with his life,
Right.
but yet he still is trying to maintain some sense of perfection in his own life, with his children, with
Yeah.
his grandchildren, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of there. There's
Right.
this point where he's talking to his wife, Veronica,
Mm.
and uh, he says, well, maybe not perfection in this world. Well, anyway, the screen door is fine. And he was talking to his son,
Mm.
right? His own son, who, because he puts in an aluminum door, which isn't quite the same as the screen door,
As a wooden,
but
yeah.
well, because he says, "See, champ, it's perfect now." And then Will felt that vague memory, right? Because he
Mm.
wants that still. He wants
Mhm.
that, much like we want a lot of things that we had at some point in our life.
Right.
But he's able to recognize as
Yeah.
well, maybe not perfect.
Yeah.
Perfection in this world is, well, because
Yeah.
he knows he can't quite get it back.
Yeah.
He can't quite nail perfect.
Right.
And that's just a story of human condition. We
Yeah.
want this thing to be perfect.
Right.
We want it to be like it was,
Yes.
but it's just not going to be,
Right.
not in this world.
Right. Yeah, that's the whole experience of our growing. Like when we start out in this world, we're just absorbing everything. You think about a young child's experience of summer. That's exactly it. It's very much in the moment, or a young child's experience of time. What is time, right? Summer just seems endless, right? It's very much here and now, right? And then as we get older, like we start to amass memories. We start to amass expectations that have both been fulfilled, but then also expectations that haven't been fulfilled, And in his case, that perfect summer was so amazing, it became the standard by which he started to compare subsequent summers, right? And it talks about him experiencing this hollowness, right? It's true. Where does this expectation for perfection, for absolute happiness, where does it come from? Why are we always sort of in our human experience left wanting more or not quite satisfied? Or like, you think back to a perfect summer, like I was thinking, what was sort of the tappity tap in my own summer? And I haven't quite associated or come up with anything right yet. I've had wonderful summers. I remember when I was 9, we had a big summer because that was the summer that we moved about an hour away from where I grew up, and that was a bittersweet summer. And I wouldn't really associate it with one particular sense experience, but that idea of, like you were saying, we go through life, especially Billy, he matures, he becomes Will, right? And yet he's still judging, he still has that expectation of happy moments, right? And yet nothing ever quite living up to that expectation.
Right, right. I was listening to you talk about, you know, children and what is it that sort of makes us want that experience, that sort of perfect uh, experience of life.
Yeah.
And I was distracted because I was thinking about how my children just sort of they just want everything to be good. Their natural inclination
Yes.
is like, well, we should just be having fun.
Right.
We should just be enjoying ourselves.
Yes.
We should just like, why can't we just be playing? Why can't we just be doing this fun thing all the time?
Right now.
Right
Yes.
now.
Yes.
And that is their young, uninfluenced minds
Yeah. Yeah.
just looking at life is like, well, why can't we?
Right.
Why can't it be perfect all the time? And we come in as the adults, like, well, and the parents, well,
Right.
we can't do that all the time, and we have
Right.
to leave now, and we have to go home, and
Right.
you have to go to sleep, and you have to do this,
Yes.
and you can't have candy all the time, and no,
Yeah.
you can't watch TV all the time, and
Right. Yeah.
we've shifted
Hmm.
ourselves, and we look at it as adults, it's like, from a completely different perspective because we broke out of that.
Yes.
And we call it maturing. We call it
Or
becoming an adult.
yeah.
We call it being responsible,
Right.
and we forget what it was like to be a kid,
Yeah. Right.
And they're in their most sort of innocent time as very young children,
Hmm.
and they're sort of experiencing the world unaware of its flaws,
Right.
and and they just want that to stay. It's like
Yeah.
it's their own sort of version of heaven,
Yeah. Yes.
and God is like, why are you complicating things?
Yeah.
Like, the kids have it right, like they
Right.
just want it to be good. They just want to have fun.
Yeah.
And, you've gone in and you've sort of messed things up a little bit in the world. And yeah, you're not able to see the world that I created from
Yeah.
the lens of a child. You see it as like, oh, this and that, and
Yeah.
no's and can'ts and why nots and not
Right.
yet's. And
Yeah.
it's like, so, there's a reason that scripture is very clear about, if you're like a child,
Yeah.
you have a better shot at, coming in to enjoy the kingdom versus, being sort of a cynical grown up.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's that sense of, we talk about childlike wonder. Everything is new, everything is fresh, everything elicits this response of whoa or enjoyment, like you were saying, or a kid's experience of time. Like as adults, I'm like, okay, we have obligations, we have to meet deadlines. We're thinking logistics, we're thinking, how do I get from A to B? what's the end? We're thinking in terms of productivity, results, etc. But a child's mind, they're not like that. They're thinking of enjoying the process, enjoying the journey, just like you were saying, like they want to be happy, right? We just came back from vacation last week, and our 12-year-old daughter made sort of an off the cuff remark like, I wish we could live at this vacation spot all the time, right? We had so much fun. Why did it have to end, right? I'm like, well, we can't live in perpetual vacation mode. And I was there, here I am being the adult, right? We can't live in perpetual vacation mode. But wouldn't it be great if we could just have perpetual vacation? I guess that's what heaven is like.
Right.
Rest.
It's rest, peace,
Mm.
joy, all perfected,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, again, it's not that it's not possible, but human tendencies treat a perpetual vacation on Earth
Mm.
that potentially lead to grave sin, or just sin
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah.
Sloth, gluttony, greed,
Yeah.
just
Right.
and you end up sort of falling off because you're like, well, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I'm on perpetual vacation.
Right.
Again, human brokenness.
Yeah.
But it would be. It sounds good in its perfected form, right? In the way
Right.
where we can appreciate a
Yeah.
perpetual, eternal vacation.
Right.
And it's great, right? And I'll jump to it here.
Mhm.
What does that say? The very end of the story, Will, as he slipped away, he realized perfection exists in only two places. One of those is in the mind of a 5-year-old. The
Mm.
other is in that perfect summer of eternity.
Beautiful.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. That's
Yes.
it. I mean, we want really bad to be on this earth and to be free of suffering, to not hurt, to escape everything bad, and we can't. And that's
Right.
I wish, I really wish that we could say something different. It's not gonna happen.
No. Right.
This isn't the end. This isn't our home. This
Right.
isn't where we belong. And we must find a way to sort of endure what we're given here, because that summer of eternity, right,
Yeah.
is waiting for us.
Yes.
But it's not here,
Right.
So much like I said, my kids are like, why can't we just have fun all the time? Your
Right.
daughter wanting to, like, why can't we be on vacation all the
Yeah.
time?
Why does it have to end?
Why does it have to end? It's
Right.
like, I'm sorry, I really am. I wish I could allow you to live in a perpetual vacation.
Yeah.
We can't do it here.
Right.
But there is a place, there is a place where we
Yeah.
can, and we need to
Yes.
get there.
Right. Right. And you talk about that. That's our human experience. We have happy moments here on earth. We have sad moments. We have moments of suffering. We have moments of joy. We have moments of consolation. But they're all moments, right? And I feel like that's also even the way the story is written in fast, sort of broad brushstrokes, showing how Will's perspective changes. And maybe that's sort of the key of his growing up or growing in wisdom, is realizing that the perfect summer that he experienced as a boy, we still have this expectation for perfection, but nothing in life will ever absolutely satisfy our deepest longings for joy, our deepest longings for happiness. It's only when we go through the final screen door of death, right, and enter into the perfect summer of eternity, that those deepest longings will be satisfied. Yeah. And I wonder if that's the wisdom. And I love how he also brings out in the story how also part of like growing up or growing in wisdom and growing in our capacity for love is to try, as you mentioned earlier, to recreate those kind of same experiences for our offspring or for others, right? So then Billy grows up to be Will, who forms his own family, and then he wants to create the same kind of happy moments for his own family, which is more of a, instead of receiving with childlike wonder, which is wonderful, it's now more of a agency. There's more of an active giving. Like, I want to do this for others. Now it's not just like ego-centered, it's now other-centered, or and I thought that was kind of cool. But even in that other-centeredness, that's still imperfect. It's not perfect, right? His kids grow up, they move away, or the screen door that he installs doesn't make quite the same sound that encapsulates his whole experience of the perfect summer. But it is what it is. And I feel like, that's also the wisdom of his wife, where he's like kind of bouncing off his expectations off of her, and she kind of gives him the reality check. Like, this is like, enjoy the journey, enjoy the process.
Right, right. And she's that sort of wisdom, right? And she says, "They'll do fine," said Veronica. "They're tough, resourceful kids. You're a wonderful father. Just let them stand on their own." And
Yes.
he says, "You're right, of course. I just want so much for them. This world is just so, well, flawed." And
Yes.
Veronica says, "They're fine. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to try to make the world perfect for them." That's what she
Right.
says.
Right.
But we want that. We want them out of, for whatever the reason is. If
Yeah.
it's for our children, it's because we
Right.
love them and we care for them and we want them to be safe, or it's
Yes.
because we care about others, or we just
Right.
don't want someone to have the same experience that we had.
Right.
So our heart is trying really hard to make the world a perfect place.
Yeah.
And that's good. That's fine to have a desire to want to care and love for others. That's what God calls us to. That's what Christ calls us to, to love others, to love our neighbor, to
Right.
love our children, to love our family. But we have to accept part of the reality of the world is that we cannot make it perfect.
Right.
We can do so much, right?
Right.
We can only do so much for our children.
Yep.
They will leave and then they will be on their own.
Yeah.
And then all we can do is pray for them.
Yeah.
And the world will take them, and who knows, some good, some bad, but we cannot control it. It is out of our control,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to accept that is hard,
Yeah.
but there's also some peace to be found if we can just sort of release ourselves and accept, like, this world is not it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That life is changing. We can't control. Like, life happens. We're all getting older every minute, right? That's outside of our control. How we fill it, how we choose to use our talents and the activities that we choose to engage in, that is, we do have control over that to a certain extent, right? And that's I feel like the drama of being human, right? But that idea of perfection and our expectations. I remember reading this book about temperaments, how different people have different temperamental tendencies. And I remember the description about the melancholic temperament, the melancholic person. Not that they're always morose, but the key insight to the melancholic temperament type is the fact that the melancholic person is so idealistic, has such high expectations and aspirations for all of reality, and then reality presents itself as it is. They kind of live in this space of, it's not what I was expecting, right? And so hence the name melancholic, right? So it was just an interesting insight into that temperament, whereas like the sanguine person is a party waiting for a place to happen, etc. But it was just interesting. It's like, melancholic person has such high expectations, and then reality is what it is. They always kind of go through life in this, I'm thinking right now of the food critic, the main arch villain in Ratatouille, right?
Ego.
Ego, Anton Ego,
Right.
right? Which is kind of funny, a ton ego, right? But uh, right, he's like the archetype of that personality, like such high. He's like, I don't like food, I love food, and if I don't love it, I don't swallow, right? So he's has this high expectation for perfection, and food is what it is, but it never really kind of satiates him. I don't know.
But here's the great detail about your example. What ends up affecting him is a simple meal that he remembers from his childhood
Yes.
that floods him instantly with all the memories of
Yeah.
being home with his own family.
Right.
So that one little thing
Yeah.
turns it on and affects the rest of his story in the movie,
Yes.
right?
Right.
So that concept of hanging on to something from your childhood and
Yes.
trying to achieve it, or that maybe you had forgotten, and then can
Yes.
sort of bring you back to that desire again for wanting that
Right.
because it was so good. And in his mind, it was this unbelievable flood of memories,
Yes. Right. It was
And
life changing.
right, it was life changing. And suddenly he was like, oh my gosh, I had forgotten, sort of. Like you could tell
Right.
it was something that he had forgotten.
Yes.
And and in the end of the story,
Right.
you've got Will, who had sort of moved on from the initial sound. He had moved on from the
Sure.
thump tappity tap tap. He's
Yeah.
on his deathbed. It's close, and the wind outside knocks some branches against the window, and he hears that thump tappity tap tap.
Yeah.
And Will smiled. The once familiar sound awakened his memory of the wooden screen door of his youth,
Yeah.
and he was like,
Yeah.
and he passes away after that, right?
Right. Yeah.
But he realized, right? He realized the goodness that he had, and now
Yeah.
the goodness that that awaited him,
Yes.
right? He was able to sort of die in a greater peace.
Yes. Right.
So
Yeah.
that ability of something good to help propel us forward, sort of goodness in its purest form, right? The goodness that
Right.
what a 5-year-old experiences. And we don't know how old Ego was in that scene, but he looked like
Right.
he could have been a
Yeah.
5-year-old.
5, 6-year-old. Yeah. The
And
scene where it just kind of like zooms into his
right,
memory. Yeah.
there was perfection for a young boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now he could sort of move on in his life in a different way. Will
Right.
remembered the sound again, and he's
Yeah.
able to say, now I can die in peace
Yeah.
and go to that summer of eternity.
Right. It's beautiful reflection. Ooh, great way to tie it into that scene. Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking as well, Albert, as you were talking, um, trying to relate this to memories that I've had. And I remember it wasn't really like a perfect summer or anything, but I remember as kids, like our dad every night would sing us lullabies, but he would sing White Christmas, Bing Crosby's White Christmas, year round, right? In Southern California, right? And I grew up. I remember and I didn't see snow. I think until I was 17. When we moved back to East, but that kind of memory. So now, whenever I hear in Christmas time Bing Crosby's White Christmas, it brings back not just the whole White Christmas movie or whatever, but it brings back that extra memory of my dad singing to all of us kids a lullaby, and he'd put on his Bing Crosby voice and everything. He'd get all into it. But yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
So I mean, really, it's a great story.
It is.
It's a good story, and like you said, the fact that Joe basically, in a period of like 4 to 5 minutes, encapsulated an entire life, but told a very good story about life. Also, it's not just he captured an entire life; it's that he spoke of life very well in this story that he wrote,
Right.
and a great reminder to all of us about our days here on Earth. And it's not meant to be a story to make us sort of sulk and be sorrowful.
No.
It's like, okay, life is what it is right now. And there is something better coming, if
Yeah.
if we work at it and we make that our goal.
Yeah.
And I'm very just appreciative of that thought to remind myself, not going to get perfect here, but there's perfect waiting.
Right. Right. There's a summer of eternity on our horizon as Christians, right?
Yeah.
And that helps. Is sometimes I'll tell my kids during summer, now just remember, winter's coming. And then in winter, sometimes I tell my kids, now just remember, summer's coming. That idea of like life is life, right? And nothing, the temporality of life is as it is. Nothing is ever going to satisfy us or meet our deepest expectations for happiness.
Right. Right. We've been talking and reviewing That Perfect Summer by Joe Potts. Another excellent story by him. I'll have the link in the description so you can listen to it. Again, you can find it at our YouTube channel for weareonebodyAudiotheater.com. And I invite everyone to really take a listen to it and contemplate where you are in your life. Maybe you have a perfect summer memory from being a child, and know that there is, as Michael Steele said, on the horizon, there is a perfect summer waiting for all of us, God willing. Michael Steele, such a great opportunity, and I'm always thankful to get to talk with you. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Albert. I always enjoy our conversations.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Table of Content, where we discuss all things We Are One Body Audio Theater. I invite you to continue to return for more episodes. I continue to invite you to, listen to all of the content that we provide at We Are One Body Audio Theater. Lots of really good things in our archive. So please look our channel up.
And new productions on the horizon.
New productions on the horizon. There's always something new coming. So just stay tuned. Subscribe, not just for us.
Right.
Subscribe for the stories that we tell and record. But I hope that you will return. And until the next episode, as always, be good, stay safe. Peace.
Peace.